everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm Magical Jill.
Why is there a girl talking?
I don't know, that's kind of weird, huh?
I just subscribed to this channel because of that annoying guy in the last video.
Yeah, that video that somehow went viral.
Yeah, I don't know what you call viral, but we made a video. I made a video on this channel. I'm Jay, I'm your husband, co-host here. Mm-hmm. I have a bunch of my own channels, by the way, in the description down below.
Let's not forget I'm the main character on this channel.
Right, I'm sorry about that. I'm supporting cast. I'm like the Olaf to your Elsa.
Yes, yes.
But in general, this channel is yours. I just am on it a lot. And we talked about Pokemon, and we haven't talked about Pokemon in a long time, but that video did so well. It is something we do want to talk about more often. So if you subscribe for that, we are going to cover it. But in general, Jill, what do we often do on this channel? I
love doing Sailor Moon and other animes like Dragon Ball, Full Metal Alchemist, other stuff like that. I'm really, kind of anime-centric of a channel.
Yeah, but sometimes also we'll cover, like, cozy games or toys or things like that that are just fun. But yeah, I mean, anime and video games that are related to anime are a lot of times what we cover.
Yes.
And so with Pokemon, originally we were going to put it on my channel, JayRPG, or one of my channels, but then we decided, okay, yeah, it's an RPG, but also we want to talk about the anime, so it'd be weird to split it.
And that's what this video is going to be about.
So that's why this video is about the anime, because you watched what? When you were a kid, this is a tiny disclaimer so we don't seem like liars. When you were a kid, you saw maybe 4 or 5 episodes of this anime.
No less than that, like 2 or 3.
Okay, in passing on TV, like at your house when it was just on.
Yeah, like as a little kid,
and
very young.
And you don't remember any of it.
No, I only remember the fact that there was characters named Misty, Brock, Pikachu, and Ash. That's all I remember.
So this is basically your first time ever watching the Pokemon anime. I think we made it through episode 6 or 7 so far. Mm-hmm. Like, Ash just got through the Cerulean Gym.
Yeah.
So we wanted to take a look at your first impressions, kind of like is the Pokemon anime worth watching if you've never seen it in 2025, and your impressions for viewing it the first time.
But before that, we're going to ask a question of the day.
Question of the day. What are your thoughts on the classic Pokemon anime? And I say classic because there is a new anime, so this could be anything with Ash. That's kind of what I want to know. Mm-hmm. Did you fall out of it? Did you quit watching at a certain point?
Wait, is Ash not in the new anime?
No.
What?
No, it's
what
new
did they do to him? Did they kill him?
They took him out back. They said,
oh, no.
They said this immortal abomination will not age, and then they did like the X-Men Origins Wolverine thing where they tried to firing squad him.
Oh my.
Yeah, no, basically they moved away from him to try new characters. What's weird about that is I believe there was just a time skip in the anime where those characters did age.
Oh.
So it's like they're going a different direction, and I don't understand how they'll ever bring Ash back if they do, but they did say they're open to it.
Okay.
But then they said that if they brought him back, he'd probably still be 10, so like, that doesn't make any sense.
Wait,
so,
that doesn't make any sense, because isn't Misty an adult now from what I've seen in fan art?
No, that's just people having fun with fan art because she's a lot older in gold and silver.
I just revealed myself as a gooner.
Well, fair enough. No, in general, though, I think that it's weird because the Pokemon anime did not age with its audience.
That's very odd.
That's something that I've talked about before when this has come up, is it's a frustration with a lot of the community, and it's something I think we can talk about when we get further in the anime, because the anime keeps resetting essentially every region to leave Ash about the same age because they want him to be the age of their target demographic audience they were aiming for.
Oh.
But now with aging up the characters, I'm wondering if they're finally understanding that a lot of the Pokemon audience isn't kids anymore.
Yeah, now they're all in their 30s.
Yeah, I know, like a lot of it's nostalgia stuff.
Yeah.
So, well, anyway, I wanted to know what you thought about this, because I have seen the anime. I originally watched, I would say, most of it up through like season 10, but I used to binge watch it when I was a kid. So this is my first time in years.
For my first thoughts, I thought, wow, I didn't realize Ash was such a terrible trainer. Like, first few episodes, I was like, does he not know anything about Pokemon? I thought he was supposed to be good at this. And the battles were very,
underwhelming?
Yeah, they were very underwhelming because he was such a bad trainer at first.
Well, yeah.
And then he started to understand a little bit more as, like, Misty and Brock told him things, you know? We've gotten to the point in the Cerulean Gym where he finally figured out that, like, there's different types that do things with each other.
Where, don't worry, he'll still forget about that later.
Okay, that makes sense. Like, I enjoy that Brock when he was fighting Brock, Misty kind of told him, hey, rock Pokemon are actually weak to water Pokemon. Maybe you should use water Pokemon or use some sort of water something, And I'm glad that she kind of started to reveal that in the anime, because me as a Pokemon player already knew these things, and it was starting to get a little bit frustrating that Ash hadn't figured it out yet so many episodes in.
Well, especially because the kid is shown watching all these TV shows about Pokemon.
Yeah.
Like, you would think he would have picked up on a little bit of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's actually something I really like about the anime, not to spoil anything for you, but I will say that I feel like Ash becomes a better trainer from, like, seasons 1 to, like, season 9 or 10. Like, it feels like he's improving, and in each region, he's getting better. And then I would argue that for, like, several regions, they start resetting him back to an idiot.
Oh.
At the beginning of the region. Like, he
Why?
doesn't... It's like they wanted new audiences to come in, but I don't understand why they wanted that. Like, I've never understood why this show didn't grow up a little bit with the people watching it.
Yeah, that's really weird.
I don't know. I don't want to derail this, but I did want to say I think that's something that's worth pointing out, is, like, he's learning. And I think maybe people who watched the mid seasons of this show, like, 10, 11, 12, 13, they might feel like, oh, he's an idiot, he didn't learn anything. So it's kind of weird to see that from a first impression, because you're right.
Yeah, to see him actually learning things.
Yeah, and getting smarter.
I also really enjoyed seeing him develop a friendship with various different Pokemon, with Brock and with Misty. Obviously, right now he doesn't like Misty too much, but he still likes her a little bit, and Pikachu is really a big fan of her, And I really enjoyed him and Pikachu not liking each other very much at first, and then he had to earn the respect of Pikachu to become his friend, and I thought that was really interesting, and I really enjoyed seeing that.
Yeah, you didn't know about that angle at all, did you? You just thought they were best friends forever.
Yeah, I thought they were best friends from the very beginning, but it turns out Pikachu was kind of a dick at the beginning.
Yeah, and I liked how you didn't know the whole thing about him not being able to get one of the normal starters.
Yeah, I had no clue. I always wondered, why does he have Pikachu and not one of the normal starters from the game?
And I'm kind of interested in what your thoughts will be on the movies, because I would love to talk about some of those as we get to them. Mm-hmm. Those are some of my favorite anime-centric things, because some of those movies actually even play really well into the early seasons, I think. So that'll be fun to get to, too.
Yeah, it'll be very exciting. There's also, I really loved the feeling of mystery in the world, because there's still undiscovered Pokemon at the point in the show we're at, and also there's, like, moonstones that fall from space that, like, the Clefairies prayed to and stuff like that. It just feels very mysterious and unknown, kind of like an alien planet. Mm-hmm. And I really enjoy discovering more about it as it goes on. Even though I already know things about this world from playing the games, it still feels like I'm getting to discover new things.
Well, one thing I think you'll like about this world is that it is a separate continuity from the games. Mm-hmm. So, like, the games have their own canon, the manga essentially has its own canon than the anime does. And I think you'll like that, too, because there might be stuff in the games that you find underwhelming that the anime focuses a lot more on in their version of the world. Or there might be stuff in the anime that you say, man, I wish they got more into that, but it's a focus of a game. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's something really cool about the Pokemon anime, is you're right. Like, I think we're used to a lot. Like, Clefairy or Clefable, that's not special to anyone anymore. Mm-hmm. Because it's common, right? We've seen it 100 times, but in the anime,
they made it out to be like it was a rare thing to see, and that it was really fun.
They're seeing it from their point of view. It's like their first time, and also we're seeing it in a different world where it is special.
Yeah. I really liked seeing that.
I like that too. There's a really big sense of discovery. We talked a little bit about designs for Pokemon too, and I kind of wanted you to mention that, because you have played games, but you're most familiar with Pokemon with the last 2 generations.
Yes. And
so you were kind of noticing, wow, these are really creative designs for most of the Pokemon. Not all. There's some stinkers in Gen 1. But then, like, looking at the newer generations.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's Pokemon that I really like from the newer generations. And people are going to be mad at me for this, but my very first Pokemon game I ever touched was Sword and Shield.
Well, that's just because that was what you could get.
That was what I had at the time. And so I really enjoyed playing as Scorbunny, turning him into Cinderace eventually. and I really enjoyed the Galarian Ponyta. Like, I really like some of those Pokemon from that generation.
Mm-hmm.
But then seeing, like, what Pokemon was Gen 1 in this show, it was like, it felt very special, and it felt like every single one that you come across is very unique. You know, going from seeing Butterfree to Clefairy was like, oh wow, that's really different. That's really creative.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And it felt, I don't know, it just felt much more special, the lack of thousands of Pokemon that they had. Does that make sense? Like, the fact that it was a smaller amount, it made each one feel much more special.
Yeah, and I mean, this is something I liked about Johto, even though a lot of people find it underwhelming, was that instead of expanding with, you know, an extra 150, I think they only did, I don't remember, maybe 100 extra, and they kind of honed in, and there's still a couple of stinkers in there, but overall I like most of the Pokemon.
Yeah.
And I think that for Gen 1 through 3 or 4, a lot of the Pokemon designs are very creative, and then you can tell after that, not that there are none, but that it's like, oh, we already did this idea. What about this? Oh, we already did that. Well, what about the... And then, like, you end up with a lot of generic or just bizarre Pokemon that are not that creative because you're at 1,000 or 1,200 or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, the more you add...
It becomes an overwhelming number, and then it kind of negates the whole gotta catch 'em all from, like, the first season.
Oh,
it's
yeah,
like,
that goes away.
It feels almost impossible. You can't catch them all anymore. Like, they got rid of that, and then they even changed the theme song so you wouldn't want to try and catch them all anymore.
Yeah, because there's just too many. And, you know, something you pointed out, I think in your previous statement about that, when watching the anime, the amount of Pokemon there are, it makes a new one showing up feel more special because it's not one of 1,200.
Yes.
It's like one of 150.
Yeah. And it's like, oh, cool, we're getting to learn about, like, this one individually first for a little bit. I don't know, I find that really fun, and I like getting to know the Pokemon individually rather than just, like, walking through a field and being like, that one's not that cute, that one's not that cute. Oh, I like that cute one, I'll get that one. Well, that's kind of how I judged it when I first played.
Well, and even without looking at it that way, there's a lot of, like, that one used to be awesome, oh, that one's boring. You know, like, there's a lot of ways you can look at it. I really think that the more the anime went on, the more the games went on, there is still fun to be had, but it does hit a point where it's like, there's just so much. And where we're at, I feel like there's both a simpleness to it, but also there's like a sense of discovery because of the simpleness, where each discovery matters more. And it feels like it has more impact.
I'm also very excited to see more of the intense battles later on in this anime, because I know that they do get better. And I'm also... I have like a little bit of a criticism so far.
Well, that's fair.
In the American dub, he kind of meets Gary for the very first time when picking out his Pokemon, and he's like, are you Gary? And like, it's like they didn't really know each other, but we can tell that Gary's really arrogant and rude. And then throughout the entire rest of the anime, Ash is like, I gotta beat Gary. Gary's my rival. Gary wrote this mean thing on a sign about me.
Yeah, why would Gary even write that about him?
It's like, we don't even know who Gary is, basically. Like,
yeah.
I wish they would have done a little more with that.
I do feel like there are some problems with the translations of this anime. Something I'm noticing too, like all the stuff about Brock's mom dying, that's not even in the Japanese version. I looked that up because I was confused about it as someone who's seen more of the anime and heard later dialogue. And I'm like, well, wait, I don't remember this. And I look it up and it's like, yeah, they just made that up. They just added that. I feel like these early seasons, or especially season 1, as nostalgic as people are for it and as fun as it is, it's very slow paced to continue its story. And also, it feels like it embellished its story a lot. Like, the translators didn't just translate. They were like, it'd be better if we added this in.
Yeah.
And I kind of, as people who are fans of anime and fans of games from Japan, there's not a lot of times where translators deciding to take something and completely change it works out for the better.
Yeah.
Like, it's because it...
However, I do think in the American dub, just saying she died of some sort of sickness makes her look like a better person than just...
She left.
She left her entire family for just Brock to take care of. Because that makes it so, like, both his parents were pretty terrible people.
Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's why they did it. Maybe they didn't want to go for, like, an absent parent type thing.
Yeah.
For, like, young kids who maybe were missing a parent. I don't know.
Yeah.
Also, though, you have to remember, in Japan during this time, ratings were a lot less strict. I would argue that, in general, they saw the West as soft. Like they saw Americans as softies.
Yeah, you were allowed to play epilepsy episodes on TV.
Well, they changed that. That's a good point. Yes, there was a lot of imperfections here, but in general, like, they exposed kids to a lot more adult themes than American and Western stories did. American and Western stories, like, and European stories and stuff.
That's why the American dub of Sailor Moon got censored so much.
Yeah, by the Deke people. But in general...
I like to call him Dick.
True. In general, it's interesting because, like, as someone with a story degree, like, literature degree, if you look back at the history of this stuff, Europe, it had all these dark fairy tales and things like this. And then there's kind of this period of sanitization where everything became way more kid-friendly.
Yeah.
But Japan is more having that, I would argue, now a little bit, where, like, ratings are more strict and they're not aiming as much adult content at kids or mature content at kids, which is why Dragon Ball Z got censored a little bit. Like, they used to blow holes in people, and now they had to kind of cover it up for TV showings. So my long story short is, it's interesting to look back at this as a time capsule, too, because you can see elements of, like, what Japanese society allowed and America didn't, and you can see elements of, like, what was changed because of that divide.
I know, it makes it really interesting, and I really enjoyed watching this show. At first, it kind of felt very, like, campy and silly and stupid, and I really enjoy that kind of thing, but I also understand that later on there's going to be a little bit more serious themes, and I'm really excited to get to that.
Yeah, so I'll be interested to see what you think. I'm sure we'll make more videos on that.
Yay! More videos, so stay tuned.
But
and
Jill...
also, I wanted to talk about, I have an awesome shop called CosmoBunny.shop where I hand make lots of really cool resin products, and I would love you to explain what they are.
So we take comic books, manga, and magazines that are damaged. These are obviously made out of paper, right? Well, a lot of these end up in landfills, and what we do instead is we save some of that paper, we reuse it in these pieces, transform it into a new medium, which is kind of supposed to be the point of, transformative art, and then we actually recycle the rest instead of throwing it into trash and landfills.
Yay, recycled!
So unless the garbage man, or the recycling man, I should say, goes rogue on his way to the recycling plant, all of that paper actually ends up in the recycling instead of a lot of shops just throwing it in the trash, which sucks.
I make recycled manga, recycled comic book coasters, recycled keychains, recycled ashtrays, things like that. I hope you go check them out.
You're having a sale right now.
I am having a sale right now for 1 week, and if it does really well, I might extend the sale to be even better.
Oh my.
So let's get excited for that. But at checkout, just type in all caps, SALE, sale, and that way you can get 15% off of your entire order, which is really exciting. Yay!
Yay! So we hope you'll check that out.
We also have a link in the pinned comment where if you just click that, it'll automatically apply the discount, so you don't even have to type it in if you don't want to.
And we do have other channels. Like, I have a few channels, one where I focus on RPGs, one where I focus on more comic booky stuff. We have a Let's Play channel where we play games podcast style together, Jill and I.
We also have a Fortnite code, all caps DJAY123. Yay!
Yay! So all these things go to help support our channels, and we appreciate you. And if you're new, hopefully you stick around and enjoy the channel content, whether it's Pokemon or something else.
And we'll see you in the next video. Bye!
Bye!